Today's a special day. This is our 200th YouTube video. And Harvey, some of you may not know Harvey. This is Harvey. Harvey's a hedgehog. And Harvey is our shop mascot, and he's also our executive producer of all of our YouTube videos. And Harvey thought it would be a good idea if we celebrated our 200th video on YouTube, because that's quite a lot of videos. Videos take a lot of time and a lot of effort and some amount of thought to put them together to try to educate and inform and share our knowledge about NuTone intercoms. Harvey said after all of that hard work that he's put in, and the rest of us I guess maybe kind of a little bit too, that we should do something to celebrate it. So Harvey's here today. We're here to celebrate our 200th YouTube video. Our 200th video is a special video. It's a video that I've actually wanted to make for the last year or so, but I was missing a key part that I needed to make the video so it would make sense to the viewers like you who would watch it. Just a little while ago, unbeknownst to him, one of our YouTube subscribers and regular commenters on our YouTube videos clued me in on something that I was looking for. It's a very rare and unusual NuTone Intercom catalog, and it features what we'll call a mystery intercom. And I've wanted to make a video about the mystery NuTone intercom for a long time, but without the catalog, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And it's a very limited edition catalog because it was only published for 1 year. For some reason, I don't have one in my library. So this YouTube subscriber clued me in without knowing it that one of these catalogs was for sale. And I snatched it up. Of course, Harvey insists that we thank this fella, because without him, it would just be a 200th video. Sure, he would get to show off in his fancy new chair with his award-winning medallion, and now he has his new assistant, Tony, over here, because he said he's overburdened and has too much to do, and he needs an assistant to do some of the more mundane things for him every day. So this is Tony. He's a turtle, and he'll be in videos, I assume, periodically. I don't really know because he works for Harvey. Harvey said that we need to thank this YouTube subscriber for cluing us in on this and making this 200th video really special and really popular. And he said he knew just how to do that. So, without further ado, Harvey would like to thank Vincent D. for his unknowing contribution to our 200th video. Without Vincent, we wouldn't have the catalog and we wouldn't be able to make this video. With great thanks and appreciation from Harvey and everybody here at Northside Service Company, thank you, Vincent, for letting us know that the thing we have been looking for over a year finally was available. We really, really appreciate it. Okay. Now? Okay. Happy 200th video. Woohoo! Now, on to the heart of the matter, our 200th video. What is this mystery NuTone intercom? Let's find out. What? No, you have to clean up the confetti. No, it was your idea. Well, get Tony to do it. He's new. He'll do anything. On to the video. Here is our rare and hard to find NuTone intercom catalog. And this catalog is from December 1988, and so it was for the product year 1989. And here on the front of the catalog we have the venerable NuTone IM6006. This came out in 1986. Here we have the IM3003. This came out in 1984. But sitting up here we have something new. We have new for 1989, we have the NuTone IM6106. And the 6106 was a brand new model that was being introduced in 1989, and it was going to take over the top spot for radio intercom systems from the IM6006. So let's go ahead and look inside and see what NuTone had in mind as a top-of-the-line model. And here we have on page 2 of the catalog, the cover being page 1, we have introducing Selective Call gives you private one-to-one communications between stations. Big exclamation mark for that. State-of-the-art telephone answering with remote access by touch-tone phone. Touch-tone is a trademark or a registered term. Top quality smart telephone plus built-in speakerphone. Digital display on master station shows your stored phone numbers and intercom station numbers. An auto reverse cassette recorder plays both sides of the tape without repositioning the tape. Special note feature. Hunt out family messages for instant accessibility. Deluxe radio lets you enjoy music, news, sports throughout your home. 24 stations plus door speakers, enough for even the largest homes. That would be true. Electronic volume control, the very latest technology, remember this is 1989, gives you crystal clear sound and years of carefree service. I think they were trying to put me out of business. No more going to people's houses and cleaning analog volume controls. It was all electronic and nothing could go wrong with it apparently. Wake up or time alert signal individualized at each station. And then up here at the top we have IM6106 Selective Call Intercom. You enjoy total privacy in talking one-to-one with any station in your system. Only the station you call hears what you say. No one else is disturbed. For instance, if you make a call late at night or early in the morning. And what they mean to say is if you're in the master bedroom and you hear a ruckus in one of the kids' rooms, you can call that room individually and not bother the 3 other kids in their rooms. And that was a good idea, I guess. Or maybe not. How Selective Call works. Standard telephone type push buttons on every station are simple to operate. You just push in 2 digits to reach another station. For example, 22 might be the master bedroom. That's going to be a really big house. 23, a child's room, etc. Your call is announced by a brief tone. That would be a pretty large house if the child's room is number 23. 1 button talk and listen. Simply push talk button to speak to the person called, release to hear the reply. What is most commonly referred to as hands-free reply. The person called answers hands-free. See, I told you. Without touching the control. Radio mutes at the 2 stations involved, but not at the other stations. So if you have the radio playing throughout the house and you call from one room to another, all of the other rooms that are not involved in the intercom call, the music continues to play. At the end of the call, the caller presses the end call button to release the system for the next call. If the end call button is not pushed, the line will automatically be released after 30 seconds. So it times out automatically. You can call all stations at once. For those times when you do want to call everyone at once, because you don't know where the person is, you press all call and every station except door speakers will receive your message. Private button on each station. You can shut out intercom communications wherever you wish at any station. Music can be eliminated by turning the radio volume all the way down. Alarm clock at each station. Wonderful convenience for waking up in the morning or from a nap, or to remind yourself of something important. So I guess this was pre-Alexa. You have to do it through your intercom system. Thumbs up on that idea. A different time can be set for each station, including the master. You set the alarm using the push button keypad. Answer the front door from any station. To see who's at the door without opening it, you push door on any station. The visitor replies without using controls. That is hands-free. Once again, 15 to 30 second timeout protects your privacy. Monitoring, you can listen in on the baby's room or sick room by pressing the monitor button. On that station, the sound will be transmitted throughout the system. You can also listen and briefly hear outside the door speaker sounds and so on and so on. This was a feature-packed model. I could go on and on. I will put images of this so you can actually read it clearly, because I know it's always hard to see in the video. And here we have on page 3 a large picture of the brand new, soon to be available IM6106. It has some other additional features You have optional all-call speakers are available. So they made two different kinds of speakers. Some were selective call, some were all-call stations, and we'll take a look at those. The IM6106 telephone with speakerphone convenience. What freedom! Imagine the convenience in your kitchen. Press speakerphone button and you can dial out and talk over the phone without carrying around the receiver. So that's an interesting idea. Make intercom calls while using the phone. Another step saver. Talk to someone in another room on the intercom while you're using the phone at the master. Just touch intercom and dial the remote station. You can put the person on the phone on hold or not as you choose. Press end call to terminate the intercom call. Fortunately, there's not a button to hang up the phone because you don't want to hang up on grandma when she's calling long distance. Digital displays of intercom and phone numbers at the master. You can bring up the directory of all intercom stations and stored telephone numbers on the digital display. Just press memory and up or down to scroll through the listings. And we have sort of a dot matrix LCD display here. And I can tell you in the real version, it doesn't really look anything like this. No black background with green numbers. It's more of a backlit with green numbers. So not really like the picture. Top quality smartphone. Do you think anyone at NuTone in 1989 really knew what a smartphone would become? Speed dial most numbers. You can store 24 telephone numbers of up to 16 digits and auto dial them with just 2 digits. A hold button puts the caller on hold, and whatever program material, radio or tape, you're playing, there will also be a mute and last number dial. So what they're implying here is that when you put a caller on hold, the system has music on hold. So if grandma's on hold and you're listening to, say, Peter Frampton, grandma can get a little dose of Peter Frampton while she's waiting for the grandkids to pick up. Flash button lets you answer a second call while putting the first call on hold if you subscribe to call waiting, because not everybody had that in those days. This is also a 2-line phone. Telephone handset has a solid feel of quality. Remember those old Bell system phone? That's what it felt like. With top quality sound transmission too. Oh look, and down here, MPP, maximum performance product, guaranteed for as long as you own your home. That's kind of gone by the wayside. And then we go over here, yet another page of specifications. Feature packed to make your life easier and more enjoyable. You know, it is a scientific fact that people that have NuTone intercom systems live longer because of all the inherent convenience of having one. That's a real thing that NuTone used to say. State-of-the-art telephone answering with a remote access by touch-tone phone. Out of town or just down the street, you can use the touch-tone phone to operate the 6106 answering machine. Yes, it's a 2-line answering machine, along with a telephone and a speakerphone and speed dial and all of those others. Oh, music on hold, let's not forget that. Call up to turn the system on, hear messages received, erase old messages, change your outgoing message, etc. A 3-digit security code denies outside access to your tape. Greet callers with a message you record on a memory chip. None of this cassette tape stuff. This 10 to 20 second memory eliminates the need for a second cassette tape because the incoming messages are recorded on the cassette tape, giving you easier to operate a more compact unit. Any of you who have watched one of my other videos with a IM6103, you can see how enormous that became because it has 2 cassette tapes in it. A voice-activated system, the 6106 records messages for as long as the caller speaks or up to 1 minute. Could have been longer. Plenty of time for pertinent information, yet protects your system from becoming tied up with computer-generated sales calls, phone receivers that are not hung up correctly, etc. Automatic record time and date. A computer-generated voice follows each message. The number of messages received is displayed on the master station readout. You have a skip button for playing back messages, a toll saver, so when grandma's got to call long distance to let you know she got home safely, she doesn't have to pay the toll. An announce feature informs callers with a pre-recorded message that the tape is full and please call back. Can be used with any time you don't want to record messages and want to avoid incessant telephone ringing. So it's a pleasant and polite electronic way to ignore people. 2 incoming lines can be answered by the answering machine. Call screening lets you listen to the answering machine calls. LEDs tells you quickly what mode your system is in at all time. cassette record features provide so much convenience and enjoyment in addition to the telephone answering. Family Message Center features note button, so kids can leave parents a voice message that they're going down to Billy's house to play ping pong and not have to scribble a note out on the kitchen counter. Automatic reverse on the cassette player, so it's an auto reverse deck. Record two-way phone conversations. That's not legal in some states. Tape an important phone conversation using the cassette tape so you'll have it for handy reference later. So you can sue that all bothersome telemarketer who calls every single night at 6:30 while you're having dinner. Record live from the radio. Super AM/FM radio with electronic scan tuning and 10-station memory. Electronic volume control for radio and intercom. Update older 6-wire systems. The IM6106 and its remote stations can be used to update older 6-wire systems such as the dreaded IM806 or the ever-popular and long-lasting N2561. Contact customer service for complete information. So how's that for a rundown? It's quite the thing when you get 5 pages in a catalog on one model. And here's all of our different choices for different pieces of equipment for the 6106. And down here we have behind the door, we have some controls. We have memory used to program favorite radio stations and so forth. Local and distance adjustment for reception of radio, so as local and distance for the antenna. Two-way recording to tape phone conversations, call screening, call saver, telephone ringer off low high, note record for when the kids want to leave you a message, note play when you want to listen to what they told you, tone and loudness down in here. It's just chock-a-block full of stuff. There's more and more and more. We have speakers and remote stations and patio remotes and so on and so on. And then finally on page 8 we have, I guess at that point, the 3-year-old IM4006 languishing in the second place of the catalog because the ever new and going to be super popular 6106 has taken over the majority of the catalog. Unfortunately, this didn't work out for NuTone the way they thought it was going to. It turns out that while this was introduced in 1989, it was all the way until almost 1992, or maybe it was 1991, that the first pre-production prototype models were actually released to the general public. And even at that, the very best estimate was they only manufactured 2,500 of them. The way you can look at the 6106 is it's as if they took an i600, which was a late 70s selective call system, and jammed it together with the IM806 that had a bunch of telephone tie-in design, and sort of laid an IM3103 and its overly complicated answering machine and telephone handset on top of it and smashed it all together, and it came out to be an IM6106. NuTone has had its fair share of less than successful models over all the years that they made intercoms. My personal experience with those began in the late 70s and early 80s with the IM806, often referred to as the dreaded 806. The 6106 easily took top tier for the most disastrous model NuTone ever made. Now, we'll give NuTone a little bit of a break on this because they didn't actually design this. I'm fairly sure that the concept and the general design and the specifications for what it was going to be came out of NuTone. But the actual engineering for this was not done by NuTone. It was actually done by Philips of North America for NuTone. And so they get a big thumbs down also because basically they couldn't make it work. It was one of the biggest disasters ever. These systems were sold. You could buy rough-ins, you could buy wire, you could pre-wire a house for it, all beginning in the spring of 1989. It was supposed to be released, and it was delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed because it had so many problems that they couldn't solve. And they went back to Philips again and again and again. And I also assume that there were engineers at NuTone who worked on it trying to solve the problems, and they could not get it to work reliably. It was nothing but a problem. After about 2 years, because of the outcry from people who have lived with holes in their walls for 2 years waiting for the equipment to become available. They relented and they released about 2,500 what they call pre-production prototypes. And it was master stations with remote stations, and they were sent out only to people that were on the list who had systems already pre-wired in their homes. Those systems were installed either by the homeowner or by the contractor or whoever did that. And then the real chaos began because they didn't work right. They were overly complicated, they were unreliable, they would break down. One of the big disasters with systems like this, it happened with the 806 and it happened with the 3103 and it happened definitely with the 6106, was that when they fail, oftentimes they take down your phone lines. And there's a lot of things people will live without, but they won't live without telephones. And if it ties up your lines and you can't get a dial tone and you can't call out, you got a real problem on your hands. This was such a problem, since we were a authorized NuTone service center, we were tagged for this area, the greater San Francisco Bay Area. We were going to become the face of NuTone to go out and service these dogs. There was no schematics. There was no service manuals. However, we do have a binder that we compiled. It's about a 4-inch thick binder of all the service notes and field notes and technical notes and discussions with engineers and discussions with service people at NuTone to try to figure out what to do, document all the problems, come up with solutions, try to keep these things working. We would go out and change out systems, change out masters, send them back so they could diagnose the problems and see what was going on with them and try to solve it, and on and on and on. It was a long time that went on, it seemed like. Although we made money doing that because we got paid on every call. So that was good. It was so bad that actually there were a couple times that I recall that people from the factory in Ohio, from Cincinnati, actually came out to the Bay Area to go on jobs with me to look at these systems in the real world to see what was up with them and see if we could solve any of the problems. In the end, it was never officially released. I actually remember I had a customer who was waiting for his equipment to come in, and I knew it was on the way finally because we received a shipping notification from NuTone that it was on the way, and we told him and let him know we thought it was going to be here Thursday, and we would call him as soon as it came in, and he was very excited. And it did come in. UPS guy delivered it, and it came in, and we were getting ready to call the fellow, let him know it was all here. And I get a phone call from our regional service administrator, I think it was at the time, and the word came down, don't give it to the customer. It's all being recalled. It's all being sent back. The 6106 is officially dead. And you're not to give out the equipment to anybody. It's all coming back and more information to follow. And that was the end of the 6106. It is, for a time being, it was a system that nobody at NuTone wanted to talk about. If you asked about it, you would be told there is no such thing. We never made a system like that. So it became known as the system that never existed. Fortunately, the outgrowth of this disaster was actually something pretty good. It was modified and it was made into a more reasonable system with more reasonable features, and it became the IM6006, which was a very successful model. Folks that had these in their houses and they were installed, and of course none of them worked, they all got replacement IM6006 systems at no charge. NuTone paid in this area. They paid us to install them in people's houses in place of this, and all of these units were supposed to be sent back to NuTone. So this is the intercom that never was. Surprisingly enough, I have one. And I've had this for a long time. I don't remember when I got it, and I don't really know why I still have it, because officially it was supposed to have gone back to NuTone because there was a big lawsuit, as I understand, with Philips of North America, and I don't know how all that turned out because they don't want to tell. Let's take a look at what an IM6106 really looks like. All right, so we're zoomed way back because it's a big old beast. Oh, look. Guaranteed for as long as you own your home. MPP warranty. Do you think if I called NuTone today they would give me a warranty replacement for this? I'm thinking not so much. Let's go ahead and take this out. Get rid of the box. And here we have it. a NuTone IM6106. Where this came from exactly, I don't know. It's been here for a really long time, and I don't think it's ever actually been installed. It might have been a unit that was sent from NuTone, and it had some purpose, and then it was never used, or I don't really remember exactly. But here it is in real life. Nothing about this is standard, and actually, a lot of this is pretty horrible. This is where the handset would have hung on the cradle here, and that's missing. Don't know why exactly. The first thing about this is a different shape and size than most NuTone intercom systems. Most intercom systems, the wall housing fits in a standard 14.5-inch stud bay, and units are usually 16, 17 inches wide. This is much narrower than that, and it had this weird offsetted wall housing thing, which made a lot of problems when the 5006 came out because the hole was the wrong shape and they had these funky wooden adapter frames that everybody hated. The other thing about this is the plastic that they used for the faceplate's really objectionable. It's got this fairly rough texture thing going on it all over the place. None of it is really smooth except for the buttons, and this just looks awful. I don't know what the thinking was behind that, but I do know the problem with this kind of faceplate is that all of the little ridges from all the little textures, they collect dirt and stuff from your fingers, and they get pretty nasty looking in a pretty short amount of time. As you can see, it was a system designed with guys in mind, because I don't think you could possibly have a lot more buttons than you do on this thing. Let's not forget, you've got hidden buttons down here too. You know, because everybody likes a lot of buttons. You have to remember, this was the late 80s going into the 90s, and in those days buttons were all the thing. The fonts they use for the labeling of the buttons is really horrible. Not a lot of finesse here at all. Maybe they would have straightened a lot of that out if it had gone into production, but it's pretty horrible in my opinion. You've got your radio controls down here, your input controls. You've got AM, FM, phono, CD, tape. You have to think about 1989, CDs were still a fairly new thing, so somebody was thinking ahead. Switch to turn on the microphone, radio button, so if you want to listen to the radio, you got to do radio on, then AM or FM. These are your cassette tape and answering machine buttons. Of course, it's just got red LEDs everywhere because you got to have a lot of LEDs. It's 1989. So these are all dual function. It's tape and answering, record outgoing message, play message, rewind, review, fast forward, SKQ, I think that's to skip ahead, to pass up recorded message, pause, I don't know what A and N means, stop. You would think one thing that said stop would have been enough. The direction, left or right for the auto reverse cassette deck. Play outgoing message, erase messages. And then we have our intercom, separate intercom volume and radio volume, cassette eject, radio mute, so if you're playing the music or a cassette tape and the phone rings, you can hit radio mute and shut the music off. Although you would have think with all these fancy advanced designs, they could have designed it so when the telephone rang and you picked up the handset, it would have muted automatically. You would think with all the other things that they were trying to do, that would have been something they could have worked in. Memory stations, 5 AM, 5 FM. Mode, function, up and down, that's for programming of the display with station identifications and so forth. 2 telephone lines, line 1, line 2. Your number pad to dial the phone and to call up selective call intercom stations. Not sure what pulse is. Must be a telephone feature. Intercom, hold for the telephone, speaker for speakerphone, memory to set preset radio stations, I think, flash to switch back and forth if you have call waiting, mute the phone, redial, telephone handset goes here, and then you have your intercom controls down here. You have a private button, monitor, which turns the microphone on this station so you can listen in, an all call, a door call, end call, and a talk button. And let's not forget down here, we have memory, two-way record, number of rings, note, record, tone, local, distance, screening on, off, ringer, volume. It's just Could it have any more things? Could it be any more complicated? Didn't they learn anything from the 806? No, I don't think they did. I think they went hog wild on this. This was going to be the new top of the line, fits all application models, and it was just a complete disaster. The other thing about this system, which they mentioned in the catalog, which may not register with everybody watching this, is that how they said it's a good upgrade model for the 806 and the 2561. Those are loop wired systems, and this was at the time going to be the new loop wired system that NuTone was going to make, so there would be something to update those other earlier loop wired models. And yes, in a lot of homes that were pre-wired for the 6106, people loop wired. That created a real problem because there were no other loop wired systems at this time. And I have a feeling that's why the IM6006 ended up being a system that could be loop wired, because they needed a design that would accommodate all of these people's homes that were already pre-wired for this thing. This one down here, it says hardware revision 6, software revision 6.42. Yes, it does have a lot of software in it. It has voice synthesizing software, which was one of the real problems because it didn't work very well. It just was a problem. So let's turn it over and look on the back and see what we have. And what we have here is actually not much you can see. You can see the back of the cassette player. You've got some basic information about hooking it up. Phone connection goes over here. System audio volume adjustment, system intercom volume adjustment, very much like the 5006, because that's really the outgrowth of this model. Antenna, line out, phone in, tape in, door speaker, so on and so on. Over here, NuTone label, NuTone IM6106, data manufacturer 12/13/1990. So this would have been, a year after the catalog came out. So maybe the pre-production ones came out a little bit sooner, or maybe this was an early pre-production model. I don't really remember. It was a long time ago, and a lot of it's kind of blurry at this point. So let's go ahead. This isn't going to be a full teardown, but let's go ahead and see if we can get the back off this thing so at least you can see what's inside. So for some reason, you have all this metal shielding on the back here, and then we have these big self-tapping nuts on a lot of plastic standoffs. I remember one of the problems with these when you have to take one apart was that the plastic tended to be fairly brittle, even though it was brand new. And if you weren't careful about taking these nuts off, you would break off the standoffs, and then you were kind of in trouble. And in case any of you are wondering, no, this is not a working model. I did hook it up before I started the video. I actually hooked it up a couple weeks ago to sort of see what was up with it, and not even the display lights up. So I don't really know what's wrong with it. I don't really know if it's even repairable because there's no information about it. There never was any kind of schematic or service manual. There's just a lot of field service notes that were made on the fly as we tried to repair these. And if we lift this off, see if we can see what's on the inside. This brings back a lot of really bad memories. Tell you what, let me stop recording for a second and let's see if I can get this thing opened up a little bit here for you and show you what's on the inside. Okay, so I got it all apart. These things are just a real beast to dismantle. Here we have, it says revision 0814P, and we have this big shielding can here, which we should take off. And I'm pretty sure, unplug these, all these interconnect cables are just, there's a lot of these ribbon cables. Most likely, this is the area under the shielded can. This is probably most likely all the telephone related stuff, which if you look at it, it's a lot of components for a telephone, especially in today's world. You can just see what a real beast this is in the way it's designed. Different sections. This down here is this is the AM/FM tuner. This is probably tuner control IC down here. You've got some ROMs. You've got a program ROM and a message ROM here. So the message ROM is where you record your outgoing message. Program ROM is what contains the software that makes the telephone operate. You've got a backup battery, which nobody has pulled the tab out of, so it's never actually been connected. You've got some kind of programming header here. You got an Oki. This is probably a microprocessor down here. You have an Intel. Can't tell the model number. I think it's an 8031. It also says Signetics, which I don't know, maybe they were part of Intel. I don't really know that. A lot of Philips chips. Remember, this was designed by Philips of North America. So I think we're going to see a lot of Philips chips. These are all Philips here. A lot of Motorola chips. A lot of these are pretty standard 74 series ICs. These packages down here, these orange ones, those are 41... looks like 4116s. Those are actually resistor networks, which is interesting. So down here we have an ST Micro. It's an MO93B1, it looks like. That's what they call a system on a chip. And that probably has a lot to do with the selective call or telephone control features. I'm not sure, because systems on a chip are programmable, so they can be used for a lot of different applications. Got a relay here. This is the terminal block for the remote speaker wiring. This is the terminal block for the door speaker wiring. Down along this side on this metal heat sink, there's a lot of, looks like mostly linear voltage regulators and some pretty good sized TO220 transistors, so probably partially amplifier circuit. These down here, you got dual transistors mounted on each side of these stand-up heat sinks. You've got some filter capacitors here, some audio transformers, quite a few relays. This, relays like this, probably intercom and or telephone related. It's just a lot going on in here. You can see, or I can see, you probably can't really see. You can tell by the way the board is laid out. It's probably all auto-routed, and that's what a big company like Philips would do. And I would guess that if it's done as you normally would see, for the most part, all of the traces on this side of the board go top to bottom. And if we flip it over, I forgot, it's mostly covered up because it is a two-sided board. The traces on the bottom look like, for the most part, without taking all the shielding off, because I don't really want to do that, all those traces go left to right. So two-sided through-hole board, no surface mounted components on here at all, at least none that I can see right off the bat. Everything is through-hole. There's not a lot of exotic things in here other than probably the telephone related stuff, which, you know, I would have to look up. A lot of these numbers are not that familiar to me. But you can see what a massive design this was, and also what a really big circuit board it is. You know, instead of going for multiple boards where this could have been one and this might have been two boards, and this could have been one board and then there's a lot of interconnect cables, it was all done on one giant board. And from a surface point of view, this is a real problem in my opinion, because even if this had worked out, and it was a reasonably successful model, if a customer has a problem with it, what do? It's not like you're going to take it back to the shop and start sucking chips off the board to try to fix it, because that's not what NuTone would have wanted you to do, I'm pretty sure. They would have had rebuilt exchange boards, and you would have had to gone out and swap out the whole thing. And I can tell you that for a while NuTone made a telephone entry system for apartment house intercom systems. The board in that thing was bigger than this. And it was just a bear to work on out in the field, because it was a hard board to take out. There was all these little daughter boards that plugged into it and all that. So not maybe for manufacturing, it's a good design, but for service, it's a terrible design. And then here on the back of the faceplate, there's not actually that much on here. We have a 6x9 speaker, which is very much like the speaker in a 4006. We have a little board here on the back of the handset cradle, which has the hook on it for when you hang up the phone. You've got a display board up here at the top. It's got its own drivers on it. And then you've got the front panel board, which is all of this, goes around the cassette player. That's primarily LEDs and push button tactile switches, I'm pretty sure. We have our auto reverse cassette deck here. Surprisingly enough, not the same cassette deck as used in the 5006. This is actually a different design altogether, so probably came from a different vendor. You've got your intercom control button board here, and then this is the board behind the door that flips down at the bottom. What I found interesting when I took this apart is we actually have down here, we have some little yellow wires. These are little bodge wires. There's lots of hand-done bodges on this. And right here, this is a little toggle switch, this little blue one. And if we turn that over and I look on the other side, that is actually, what is that? Is that a toggle? It's not a push button, but it is a switch. So, what is it for? It's not a toggle, it's a reset button. So it's a little push button switch. And what I found interesting was when I dismantled it so I could take the main board off the back of this, there were two little wires soldered to this. They were obviously hand soldered, and the cabling that was used, it was a piece of NuTone IW6R that someone looked like they had cut it by hand and sliced it down to two conductors and then soldered it in, and it hooks on the other side. So that's pretty how you doing. And then here we have these big standoffs right here that the main board fits onto, and these are actually, you know, this would be an injection molded faceplate, but these, they actually look like, if they're part of the injection molding down here where they flare out and join onto the back of the faceplate, it actually looks like they're melted, and it may have been that they weren't quite in the right position and they heated them up and then twisted and moved them over so it would line up correctly or something like that, because that looks very odd. Either that or they were glued onto the back of the faceplate as an afterthought. I don't really know. It's really hard to tell with something like this. So there you have it. The intercom that never was. The mystery intercom from two previous videos. The NuTone IM6106. I hope you found this video to be interesting. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up on YouTube, because that always helps. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Click on the wheel or on the bell on our YouTube homepage, put in your email address, and every time we post a new video, you'll get a notification so you can watch it. That's all for today. See you on the next video.